I'm absolutely thrilled to take you on an extraordinary journey today into a mysterious text that might just turn everything you thought you knew about the Bible upside down. What if I told you the version of the Bible we all cherish, the one passed down through generations, could be missing some vital pieces of the puzzle? Details about the creation of the world, the extraordinary lives of the patriarchs, and even the very laws handed down by God Himself. That's where the Book of Jubilees steps in, an ancient, almost forgotten manuscript preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, claiming to fill those gaps with hidden stories, profound insights, and a cosmic perspective on God's divine plan. This 50-chapter text, often called Little Genesis, unveils how angels shaped the fabric of time, delivered secret commandments, and guided humanity through the ages. But here's the burning question that's puzzled scholars for centuries. Why was this book banned by much of the Christian world? Was it too controversial, too radical, or did it challenge the established order? Join me as we peel back the layers of the Book of Jubilees, explore its excluded teachings, and uncover the secrets that shaped its fate. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Section 1. What is the Book of Jubilees? The Book of Jubilees isn't your average biblical retelling. It's an expansive, almost otherworldly version of Genesis that adds layers of detail you won't find in most scriptures. This text asserts that when God created the world, He didn't just craft the land, seas, and skies. He also established the very structure of time, weaving it into a divine order that reflects His perfect will. At the heart of this idea is the concept of sacred time, governed by a solar calendar overseen by heavenly angels. This calendar spans 364 days, divided into 4 equal seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter, each lasting exactly 91 days. The precision is breathtaking. This system ensures that sacred days like the Sabbath, Passover, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles always fall on the same date year after year, keeping humanity in perfect harmony with God's rhythm. Imagine a world where every celebration aligns with the stars, a testament to divine design. But here's where the story takes a dramatic and unexpected turn. The world abandoned this divine calendar long ago. Many ancient cultures, including the Israelites, shifted to a lunar calendar, which Jubilees boldly labels a corruption of God's original intent. Unlike the stable, predictable solar system, the lunar calendar's irregular months cause festivals to drift, disrupting the spiritual alignment humanity was meant to maintain. Jubilees doesn't mince words, warning that this deviation isn't just a logistical error, it's an act of disobedience that invites chaos and disorder into the world. The text even declares, "There will be those who observe the moon, but they will disturb the seasons and make an abominable day," suggesting a spiritual consequence to this shift. Intriguingly, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church still uses a calendar reminiscent of this one, with 13 months and an extra period called Pagumen, 5 or 6 days to adjust the solar year. Could this be one of the last living echoes of Jubilee's sacred time, preserved in a corner of the world? This clash of calendars is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the secrets this book holds, and it raises questions about how we measure time today. Section 2. The Role of Angels and Creation. Now let's journey back to the dawn of time, where Jubilees reveals that creation was far from a solo act by God. It was a collaborative effort with a heavenly host. These angels were brought into existence on the very first day, long before the earth took shape, tasked with governing the universe alongside their Creator. Some angels regulate the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, ensuring the seasons unfold with precision. Think of them as celestial timekeepers. Others serve as messengers, bridging the gap between heaven and earth to deliver God's laws to humanity. This angelic involvement isn't a minor footnote. It's a cornerstone of the narrative, suggesting a universe alive with divine activity. Consider Adam's creation on the sixth day. Jubilees tells us that angels didn't just watch from the sidelines, they stepped in as teachers and guides. They instructed Adam on observing the Sabbath, maintaining purity in his life and actions, and following detailed rules about marriage, worship, and even the care of the earth. This is a revelation because it suggests God's laws weren't a late addition with Moses. They were part of the original blueprint, handed down through the heavenly tablets. These tablets are described as a cosmic record, etched with God's eternal plan for both angels and humans, a kind of divine blueprint that governs all creation. One striking example is the Sabbath. Jubilees says God sanctified it, not just for humanity, but for the angels too, making it a universal principle from the start. The text even adds that Adam was shown the animals in a specific order: beasts on the first day, cattle on the second, birds on the third, by these angelic instructors, reinforcing the idea of a structured, intentional creation. This notion that angels shaped the earliest days of humanity adds a thrilling spiritual depth to the story. Don't you find that absolutely mind-blowing? Section 3. The Patriarchs' Stories. Let's dive into how Jubilees brings the patriarchs' lives to life with vivid, expanded details that add richness to their legacies. After Adam and Eve, the story of Cain and Abel takes a somber and significant turn. Jubilees frames Cain's murder of his brother as the first major breach of God's law, a sin that sends shockwaves through humanity, marking the beginning of spiritual consequences that echo through generations. The text suggests that this act of violence introduced a stain of disobedience that would challenge the righteous line moving forward. Fast forward to Noah and the flood, where Jubilees goes beyond the Genesis account with stunning additions. It describes how fallen angels, known as the Nephilim, descended to earth in a rebellious act, taking human wives and producing giant offspring. These beings didn't just live among humans. They brought forbidden knowledge, teaching people sorcery, weapon-making, and even cosmetics, corrupting society, animals, and the natural order itself. The earth became a place of lawlessness, with creatures devouring each other, prompting God to send the flood to wipe the slate clean. But Noah stood apart. His righteousness, marked by his adherence to God's laws like sacrifices, purity, and the emerging calendar, earned him and his family a place on the ark. After the waters receded, Jubilees adds that God established a new covenant with Noah, reinforcing laws about purity, offerings, and the prohibition of blood consumption to prevent future corruption. This covenant wasn't a one-time deal. It laid the groundwork for the laws passed down to Abraham and beyond, a thread of continuity in God's plan. Then there's Abraham, painted as a revolutionary figure with a story that grips the imagination. Growing up in a family steeped in idolatry under his father Terah, who crafted and worshipped idols, Abraham rejected these false gods with a bold and daring act. He destroyed their idols, setting them ablaze before fleeing into the wilderness. Angels appeared to him, teaching him the Sabbath, the practice of circumcision, and a host of other commandments, including dietary laws and festival observances. This defiance against paganism sets him apart as the father of a chosen people, a man who turned his back on tradition to follow a higher calling. And when we reach the binding of Isaac, Jubilees adds a dramatic twist. Mastema, a figure linked to Satan, suggested the test to God, hoping Abraham would falter under the pressure. But angels intervened, staying Abraham's hand and turning the moment into a triumph of faith over evil, a story of trust that resonates through time. These enriched tales transform the patriarch's stories into chapters of a grand cosmic epic, each one a piece of a larger puzzle. Section 4. Jacob and the 12 Tribes. The rivalry between Jacob and Esau takes on a cosmic significance in Jubilees, elevating it beyond a simple sibling feud into a divine drama with eternal stakes. Jubilees reveals that Jacob was chosen from birth to carry the covenant, with his destiny and that of his 12 tribes inscribed in the heavenly tablets, a divine ledger that predetermines their roles. Each tribe, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, has a unique spiritual role, tasked with preserving God's laws across generations. The births of these sons were timed according to the divine calendar, a detail Jubilees emphasizes as part of God's preordained plan, with each birth aligned to the 364-day cycle to reflect heavenly order. Trouble arises with Reuben, the eldest, whose story takes a dramatic turn. His sin, sleeping with Bilhah, one of his father's concubines, is more than a personal failing. It's a violation of divine law that carries weighty consequences. Jubilees explains that this transgression disqualifies him from leadership, shifting the birthright to Judah, who becomes the tribal prince, and the priesthood to Levi, whose descendants are set apart forever to offer sacrifices and mediate between God and the people. This shift isn't random. It's part of the cosmic order, with the heavenly tablets recording Levi's role long before Moses formalized it. The text even notes that Jacob's wives, Leah and Rachel, along with their maidservants Zilpah and Bilhah, gave birth according to a divine schedule, with each son's arrival marked by celestial events, reinforcing the idea that the 12 tribes were destined to shape Israel's future. This deeper narrative elevates Jacob's story into a cornerstone of God's unfolding plan, a legacy written in the stars. Section 5. Joseph and the Plan in Egypt. Joseph's journey becomes an epic saga in Jubilees, transforming a tale of betrayal into a chapter of divine destiny. His brother's act of selling him into slavery out of jealousy is more than a family drama. It's a grave sin against God's law, recorded in the heavenly tablets as a transgression with far-reaching effects. This act sets off a chain reaction, leading to Israel's eventual enslavement in Egypt, a period of suffering foretold in the divine plan. But Joseph's rise to power wasn't mere luck or human ingenuity. Angels guarded him from the moment he was sold, guiding him through the hardships of slavery to the grandeur of Pharaoh's court. His ability to interpret dreams and manage Egypt's resources during the 7-year famine wasn't just skill. It was part of a divine plan to save his family from starvation and bring them to Egypt, setting the stage for a larger story. Jubilees reveals that Joseph understood his success would lead to bondage, yet it was also a stepping stone to the Exodus. The text adds that his brothers faced divine judgment for their sin, a guilt that would linger until they repented, with their descendants bearing the weight of this act through years of hardship. Detailed accounts in Jubilees describe how angels intervened at key moments, protecting Joseph from death in the pit, ensuring his favor with Potiphar, and guiding him through prison to Pharaoh's side. This blend of human struggle and heavenly oversight transforms Joseph's story into a pivotal chapter in Israel's history, a bridge between famine and freedom, with every step orchestrated by a higher power. Section 6. The Exodus and the Laws. The Exodus, one of the Bible's most iconic events, takes on a cosmic dimension in Jubilees, transforming it into a moment of universal significance. This deliverance wasn't a spontaneous rescue. It was preordained, timed for the 14th of Nisan, according to the divine 364-day calendar, a date etched in the heavenly tablets. The 10 plagues weren't just punishments for Pharaoh. They were a spiritual battle, each one a strike against an Egyptian god. Frogs for Heqet, the goddess of fertility. Darkness for Ra, the sun god, proving the supremacy of Israel's God over all powers. Mastema, the evil force behind the scenes, hardened Pharaoh's heart, orchestrating increased suffering, but God's angels protected and guided the Israelites through the chaos, turning the Nile to blood and parting the sea. When Moses received the law on Mount Sinai, Jubilees insists it wasn't a new invention born of the moment. These laws, covering the Sabbath, the festivals of Passover and Pentecost, purity codes, and sacrificial rites, came from the heavenly tablets, laws the patriarchs like Abraham, Noah, and Jacob had already followed in their own ways. The text emphasizes that the solar calendar's 364 days ensured these observances aligned perfectly with God's will, with each festival tied to the cycles of creation. Jubilees even adds that the angels of the presence, a special order of celestial beings, recited these laws to Moses, ensuring their accuracy. This connection to a cosmic plan turns the Exodus into a defining moment in the universe's story, showcasing God's power over both earth and heaven, a victory celebrated in the songs of the redeemed. Section 7. The Eternal Laws and Future Hope. One of Jubilee's most striking and bold claims is that these laws aren't limited to Israel. They're eternal, binding angels and humans alike in a universal covenant. The heavenly tablets outline a timeline that spans from the creation of the world to the end times, detailing Israel's rebellion, their exile among the nations, and their eventual redemption. The solar calendar, with its 364 days and jubilee cycles every 49 years, periods of rest, debt release, and land renewal, is central to this order, a rhythm that mirrors the harmony of heaven. Jubilees warns that deviating from this calendar invites spiritual disorder, a theme that echoes through the text, with warnings about the consequences of ignoring God's timing. Looking to the future, Jubilees offers a prophetic vision that stirs the soul. Angels will descend to gather the righteous, their wings shimmering with divine light, binding Mastema and his forces in an abyss until the final judgment. A Messianic Kingdom will rise, where a chosen ruler, often interpreted as the Messiah, will establish righteousness on earth. The law will be written on hearts, the wicked cast into a lake of fire for their rebellion, and peace will reign in a restored creation. Jubilees even describes the righteous living to see this kingdom, their bodies renewed as a reward for faithfulness. This vision ties every event, from the fall of Adam to the final days, into a single divine narrative, offering hope to the faithful and a promise of justice. It's a breathtaking look at how God's plan unfolds across time, a story that invites us to ponder our place in it